broadcasting live out of a basement in Appleton, Wisconsin. You're tuned into Fox Cities Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. We're the show that gives you an opportunity to call in and be a part of the show. Our call-in line is 920-358-0795. Core. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fox Cities Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. If this is your first time tuning in, WCZR is a live streaming independent rock station based out of Appleton, Wisconsin. We play lots of mainstream music right alongside a ton of local bands, and they go really well hand in hand together. If you haven't checked it out, give us 20 minutes. You'll be glad you did. You can tune in at live.codezeroradio.com. So we've got kind of a different show today. It's the 30th anniversary of the passing of Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain, which I thought it would be interesting to recollect on a trip that I took with my sister and brother that we coined Grunge-Cation. We took this trip back in 2011, so that was quite some time ago. I'm curious to see how muddy our memories are. I'd like to welcome Tony and Kelly to Fox Cities Core. How are you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
I know that this isn't, public speaking isn't everybody's favorite thing, so I appreciate you guys doing this.
Is it yours?
No. Oh. So the memories might be a little bit murky, but in 2011, we took a trip called Grunge-Cation. And I believe Tony was the one that originally had the idea to do Grunge-Cation. It was based on the fact that the Seattle Mopar, is that what it's called? It was called something else, yeah. I think, at that time. But they unveiled a Nirvana exhibit.
It's not Mopar, but I don't know.
Museum of Pop.
Modern Art.
Yeah. So the idea was hatched to go...
Experimental music.
Go to Seattle and see this. Somehow, Tony, you came across Leland Cobain. How did you find out about Leland Cobain?
Honestly, I don't remember. But I think I don't remember. Somehow I found his address and wrote him a letter, and then he wrote me a letter back, and then I wrote him another letter, and then he wrote me another letter back, and I think from there it just seemed like a good idea to go visit him.
Well, how you must have mentioned at some point in your letter that you wanted to come and visit. Was the first one just sort of a fan letter of some type?
Fan letter? No. I honestly don't remember the first letter I sent him. I think right away I was asking if we could visit. And I don't remember if I saw somewhere that someone else visited him, or I don't remember where. But he wrote back right away and sent me some little cutout pictures that he took of Kurt Cobain and other him and his wife and things like that, which I guess he had these cutout pictures that were copied on colored paper that he would mail to people who wrote him letters. So it was a little strange getting those, and now I look at them and I'm glad I have them. But at the time I was a little confused by it. But eventually he said we were welcome to stop by his house. He was going to give us a tour of Aberdeen. So he had a whole list of things he was going to bring us to. There's a concrete statue of Kurt Cobain crying in some mechanic shop we're going to go look at. We're going to go look at the bridge near the house he grew up at and all sorts of things.
So the letters that he sent you are in front of you there. You've got a pile.
Yep.
And I've recently read through all those letters, and he does mention the muffler shop. That's where the statue is. But the statue was interesting because Kurt Cobain's playing guitar, and the statue isn't very lifelike, but there's a tear coming down his eye.
Yep.
So Leland really liked that statue. At least he thought people liked seeing it, because I think he offered to take other people there too.
Yes. So, I mean, I didn't know what to expect. And at that point, I didn't really hear of many people going to see him. It wasn't like it is now where everything's on YouTube and tons of people have gone out there and that sort of thing. We didn't really have a plan, but we were excited just to have the opportunity to hang out with Leland Cobain and then be at his trailer where Kurt himself lived for a while. It was kind of exciting. So
let's talk about that. So the city he lived in was I don't even Montetesso or something like that. Do you know how to pronounce it?
No.
Okay, it's outside of Seattle. So we went to his house at the time that he said, because reading through those letters, he says, "You say you're a morning person. I'm not." And something about how he gets up like at 10 o'clock or something like that. And maybe he should get up early, but I think eventually a time was picked out. We went there nervous. Mm-hmm. And this was a trailer that Kurt lived at for a short time with his father.
Yep.
So we got there.
And his grandparents.
His grandparents, yeah. Nice trailer park, by the way. But we get there and walk up to the door nervously, and nobody answers.
Yep.
So we're standing there kind of looking at, I think the three of us are looking at each other like, should we stay here or should we like go? Because that was like one of the big highlights of our trip was going to see Leland Cobain. Well, eventually...
I think we left a letter and went somewhere else.
Yes.
I don't remember where we went.
We must have had cell phones. I feel like I had a cell phone, but they definitely weren't as reliable as they are now.
I can't remember if he called. Did he call us back then? Or did we just stop back?
I think we stopped
maybe
back.
our letter we said we'd stop back a little later or something like that.
So we went into Aberdeen, right? We headed into town to see, well, we might as well see some of the stuff that we were going to see with Leland Cobain because we don't know if we're going to meet up with him. So then we did the stuff like his childhood home, and some of his childhood homes and some other sites. But I think we were a little bit unsure at that point if
I think we were a little depressed. We thought that it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. But then we end up going back, and I'll let you guys take it from where you can remember.
Didn't he have a doctor's appointment or something? Or I don't remember. I don't remember why he wasn't there.
We were happy he was home, though.
Yeah, he was very apologetic, but I don't really remember.
I thought that he forgot that we were coming, but I could be wrong.
We were on his calendar. He had McNamara on the calendar at the time, but yeah, he was apologetic, and I think right away he kind of welcomed us into the house, which was kind of weird, and we're all kind of looking around.
Yep. Then I can't remember if he toured us right away or if we sat down in the dining room area, but
I feel like he pretty much just started touring us around right away, which was kind of weird, like in a good way, but not expected.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there was some of the stuff he showed us, and I don't remember what order, but he had a gold Nirvana record on the wall that was Kurt's. He had a dollhouse in one of the back rooms that he said he built with Kurt, and he kind of pulled a couple things out of the dollhouse for us to hold and look at. And there was a plaque on the house, which I wish I would have taken a close-up picture of. It was either made by him or somebody else, like a fan, and then they stuck it on there. It said built by Leland and Kurt, but by was spelled B-U-Y. So we stood back there for, I don't know, a minute or two. I don't remember. Then he had like the little Kurt Cobain thing that you pushed a button and it played some songs. You play it and hold it out to us.
Yeah, I just remember a lot of times we'd be talking and they would just get up and start showing us random stuff, which, you kind of reminds me of Paul McCartney telling Beatles stories. I remember an interview where Paul McCartney said sometimes he's not even sure if his stories actually happened or if they're just story. He just remembers the story. And I feel like Leland was kind of like that. Like he kind of had his greatest hits he was going through and were there. And I knew they were stories he told often because of the way he told them. And I heard most of them already before. Like he told us a story about how he whipped out actual 8x10 copies of the picture Kurt drew of Donald Duck, and the one he drew of Goofy or something. And he told us some guy showed up and was offering him like a few $100s for them and was very persistent and kept coming back. Then finally he offered 600 or something, or Leland threw out 600 or something. It was some number that seems cheap now, but at the time Leland thought that this guy was going to balk at it and leave him alone. But the guy whipped out the cash, bought the pictures, and then I think at that point they'd already been auctioned off at least once, or Leland knew that he made a mistake on that. He told us stories about how Kurt, when he's living there, was lazy, and he'd tell him, "You got to get some friends," and Kurt would say, "I don't want any friends," and then he'd say, "Go mow the lawn," and then he said he went out to start mowing. He saw smoke coming from the lawnmower, and then there wasn't oil in it or something. I don't know, just all sorts of stories, and getting ahead of myself, but I remember when we left the second day, Kelly looked at me and she said, Kurt was kind of a late, wasn't he? I said, yeah, it seems that way. But I felt like talking to Leland, he really humanized him a lot to where, I don't know, it's just some kid. But
well, he did welcome Nirvana fans if they reached out. And he said that he started doing that after his wife passed away, Iris, because she used to keep in contact with fans that would write.
Yep.
So then
I kind of felt bad just thinking that he was maybe taken advantage of by fans, but maybe it brought him joy. I mean, he seemed to be excited that we were there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people go in there wanting something. I mean, we just wanted to be around him for a little bit, which I think most people go in there with pretty good intentions, but I can see where people would take advantage of him. I mean, we had sort of three of us and there's only one of him. And there were times where he'd be with one of us somewhere else and one or two of us would be on our own, sort of just wandering around his house, which was kind of weird. And I mean, you are there and you're kind of looking around. I mean, Don Cobain's phone number was just hanging on the wall in plain sight. Kurt Cobain's dad. I mean, just stuff like that was kind of interesting. And you find yourself like just looking around, trying to find any clue of historical significance anywhere.
Yeah, and to kind of paint a picture, so the table, we were mostly sitting at the table. Like, I guess it would be like the dining room area.
His Kurt fan area. 'Cause he's got his Kurt was here sticker in the window right there as well.
Which we noticed when we pulled up the first time.
Right.
We got kind of excited about. But so we're all sitting around this table and just kind of talking. We asked, do you mind if we take pictures and whatever? And he's like, But you didn't want to have the camera up like this because it just feels weird to have somebody talking, especially like about a loved one, and you've got a camera right up in their face. So Kelly took a bunch of videos with the cameras down low, which was nice. It was respectful, but it shakes a little bit on the table. But some of the stuff that you got was pretty good because we did talk so much that I don't remember.
I don't even remember how long we were there, but it was a while.
It was a while, but then so we kind of. Do we buy him Mexican food the first day?
Well, I think the deal was that you suggested that we take him out to eat in one of the letters because he writes you that we can go to the muffler shop and see the statue and go to some other places like the bridge and stuff, and then he mentions we can go get something to eat. So
everybody's got to remember too, back in 2011, like nobody really cared much about Nirvana stuff, which is weird because in the 90s. Everybody loved Nirvana. Then around 2000, that started to disappear. Like 2011, when we went, I remember being lukewarm on Nirvana at that point too, just kind of at that point in time. And then, so Leland, get him lunch and he'll tour you around Aberdeen. I remember reaching out to Jack and Dino as well, who produced Bleach, engineered Bleach, and other big records from back then. He was meeting with fans as well, and on his website, he even puts he'd be willing to talk. You just have to buy him lunch. So I wrote him a letter as well, and I was trying to hook something up with him, but the schedules didn't work. But then I noticed, like a few years later, he was complaining about people trying to meet up with him. Because I think that whole music scene kind of gained steam again, and you even look at like autographs through the mail, like Chris Novoselic, like I used to send him stuff. He'd sign his full name, send it back to me now. He still signs, but if you send it to him, he just writes his first name because all this stuff starts showing up on eBay and everybody else sees that people are getting it. And I think that was kind of the thing with Leland too. I think a lot of people went and visited Leland because they saw other people doing it. And, especially again later with YouTube and stuff as people started uploading all this stuff to YouTube.
I'm going to play a video clip, and you guys probably don't know what's on here, but maybe feel free to talk over it if memories come back to you.
The wrestling meet up there one night. Don went up there to Dad to watch it, and I guess he took his wife too. And Kurt's turned around, so he just went out there and they stood there and let the guy throw him all over the place. He wouldn't fight back. Don got so goddamn mad about that, he got up and walked out. He was embarrassed. And that's what Kurt wanted to do, was embarrass him. Trying to get even, like when they first got a divorce, Don had one of them there Dodge vans, and he put a sleeping bag in there, and they were going fishing all the time, or like on the weekend, they'd go fishing or go someplace, and like when I was working out of town, well, they'd come up to where we were at, and then you could do a little fishing because there's always fish around there, or water around there. And Kurt was really a happy boy then. But then Donnie met that girl and married her, and they bought that house there in Monty, and the basement on it flooded, and about 6 inches of water in the bottom of it. And Don that was coming through the walls, and he went and dug all the way around the house. It was that far from the house, all the way around it, and then he took some kind of water sealer and put on it, and then he took some of that black tar-like stuff for roofings or for patching. He took that and stuck it all over it, and then he got that blue of the black plastic, and he strung that all around it, and it was coming through the floor. He couldn't get down there to do that there, but it stopped a lot of it. It wasn't as much. Kurt couldn't get along with her kids. She had a boy and a girl, and I got Don off to one side one day, and I said, Don, I said, you're going to have to pay more attention to that kid. And he says, why? And I said, because I said, you're going to lose him. I said, you can watch him. And I says, Iris, you ask your mother too. I says, she'll agree with me. That if there was a banana on the table and one of her kids walked by and took a bite of it and then set it down on the table, well, he wouldn't say a damn word. He'd just smile and wouldn't say nothing, or maybe even pat her on it, for it. And if Kurt had done that, he'd holler his head off and probably bust him one on the butt, And Kurt couldn't get along so very well, so Don worked was a shipping clerk for a sawmill, and so he'd get the lumber, he just loaded in the back of his pickup or his van and bring it home, and he'd build a catwalk and build up a place where they put his bed, and that's where he slept out in there. And he was down there most of the time. That's where he would play with his guitar and stuff. No, Don was the one, and like when Iris was in the hospital up there in Seattle, well, Kurt and Courtney and Francis come over there to see her. And of course, Francis wouldn't know her anyway. She's too young.
That's Pee-wee the dog.
When they were there, well, Don called his mother and to find out how she was, and she told him then, she says, Kurt's here, and she says, I want you to talk to him. And he says, Kurt, she said, then she turned to Kurt and she says, Kurt, here's your dad, you want to talk to him? Oh, and she said, you talk to him. And he talked to him, then he said right on the phone, he says, I know a lot of the stuff that Mother was saying about you wasn't true, but and then they both agreed that they'd get together, but they never had a chance because I think that weekend he went on a tour, and so they never got together on it. again.
Oh.
And Kurt was killed when he come back from the tour.
That had to be hard for Don, I would assume.
Yeah, it really bothers him. Don won't talk about Kurt at all. He won't say nothing to anybody about him. He really heard about it. Like I got, because I'm his grandfather, I could go up and open that case up. And I won't do it on account of Don. He realized then that I think that I was telling the truth about it. But he did. He treated her kids a lot better. In fact, he still does. He treats them a lot better than some people do.
Are they still married?
Huh?
Are they still married?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I think they just celebrated their 25th year.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah, Don now is retired from the State Patrol.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does he feel proud of Kurt at all, or does he have mixed emotions about the fame?
He won't say a word about Kurt.
Really? How does he feel about you accepting all of Kurt's fans over to your place?
How did I start?
No, how does Don feel that you're so friendly with all of Kurt's fans?
Like you mean?
Yeah.
Just like got acquainted with you on her letters. Iris started answering all of the letters, and when she died, I just sort of took over and done it. And I'm getting pretty tired of it. Well, you can't imagine how many letters that I've got.
How many?
I keep that post office in business.
How many letters a week do you usually get?
I had three yesterday.
Wow.
And the Monday is when I usually get a lot of them.
Okay.
Because it's Saturday and Sunday weekend. And either Monday.
So there's just a little clip. It kind of cuts off weird, but it kind of gives you an idea of how most of the conversation.
You could have let us know how long that clip was.
Yeah, it was pretty
before
long.
Started it, but I think that kind of, that's how a lot of the conversation was. He, like a lot of elderly people get, they start rambling, and it's kind of hard to follow as they jump from thing to thing. But a lot of the conversation with him was like that, and it was kind of hard to tell if he was engaged or not.
And we kind of just sat there and listened. We were just happy to be talking to Leland.
Yeah, but I think, one thing with that clip, he brought up Iris, and he brought up his wife Iris quite a bit. There's a picture that she had painted, actually I think several that were framed, hanging on the wall in the house and stuff. So it's, that was kind of nice to hear that. And then you heard Pee-wee the dog bark. Pee-wee's this little yippity dog. I'm not sure. I think Pee-wee's still alive, because I think Uncle Gary has Pee-wee now.
Also, we'll talk about Gary in a bit, but another thing is behind where he was sitting is he had like letters and pictures that people had sent him. So
his hand selected was one of his favorites, or for whatever reason. Just
he had like some picture of Kurt Cobain that somebody did in pencil that was framed on the wall. He had like pictures of Frances Bean that people sent him, and
pictures of girls that they had sent him.
Just like a wall of stuff on the back. So
he told us that he had some girl from England that stayed with him for 3 months or 6 months or something like that. So stuff like that's kind of hard to imagine. I don't even know how something like that comes about, or but
it was cool, like being there, hearing Leland talk about some of that stuff, because you're talking to somebody who has a connection. So like the hearing about the kind of the relationship between Kurt and his dad, Don, was interesting. Mm-hmm. And then he had a picture in there too. He had the picture of Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love sitting in the trailer, like back on a couch, and there was still a couch there. So we were like looking at that, and of course asking the silly questions like, "Is that the same couch?" And like trying to do comparisons.
It was not
right. But we kind of, when we weren't talking to him, he'd get up and walk around or something, or we'd kind of look around. And when he was talking, it's like you're giving him attention, like you're dedicated attention, but you're also trying to think of like what to ask next. You don't want to get too personal. At least I don't think the three of us wanted to
Right.
make him upset. So
So at one point, we decided we're going to go get Mexican food. I think we asked him where he'd want to get food, and he recommended the Mexican place.
yes,
So he kind of scribbled out directions.
that's the only time I drove the rental car.
And so somehow it was decided you two were going to go get it, and I was going to stay there. We were probably afraid if all three of us left that we wouldn't get back in.
Come back and the door's locked.
And so remember, you guys went to get the food, and I sat there with them in that room, and I don't even remember what we talked about. I honestly don't remember.
It had to be at least a half an hour.
It was
if
a long
not
time.
more.
It was longer
a long
than
time.
that. And I think Kelly and I felt like good, I think, to get out for just a little bit. It was like, oh, because then we could kind of talk about what was happening and like stuff we wanted to ask yet that we didn't ask yet. And then I think we mentioned when we got to the restaurant, we said, because we also got him a gift certificate. We got food for all of us, and then we got him a gift certificate. And the people at the restaurant knew who he was and said he goes in there a lot or something. And so we took the food back, and Kelly and I were kind of talking about, oh, I wonder what Tony's doing or if he's having fun. Like, we were curious to see what had gone down since we left. And when we got back, you guys were sitting there talking, and that's when you said, oh, show them or tell them about the Donald Duck story. And then he went through the Donald Duck thing, and he went and he grabbed a binder that had various copies of the pictures that he sold, and then some other pictures that are widely circulated, but just stuff that he had showed us.
Right. And then I think that's around the time then we sat down, we opened up our styrofoam food containers. And I think that's where he asked if we wanted sodas. And I can't remember if I had one or not, but Andy said he didn't want one. But then
Andy politely declined.
yeah, but then all of a sudden he changed his mind and he wanted one. So Leland it was hard for him to hear some things. And so he'd get confused.
And I mumble. You can hear in that clip we watched. I said something, and he had trouble understanding me.
Yeah. So Leland would do a lot of huh? And it's like that. So anyway, so Andy all said, I'll take a Mountain Dew or whatever, and huh?
Okay,
And
so
then this kept this went on forever. And then,
Okay,
and then I think you and I jumped in too. We're trying to help him, like a soda, whatever. What? And he's
Andy's
like, I
like-
want one. I want one. It was. You probably remember more than I do about it.
We still make fun of Andy to this day.
well,
Yeah.
then here's the thing. So I said no. Then I thought about it, and I think,
You wanted a Leland Cobain soda.
well, yeah. And I'm like, well, I could use this. Like normally, I just say no to be polite. Like I don't want to drink somebody's stuff. But then also I started thinking, well, he's offering, and yeah, I'd like one. So then I said, yeah, I'll have a Mountain Dew or I'll have a soda or whatever. And then the
It did go on for a while.
Yeah, it was funny though.
It was funny and still
It was
is.
uncomfortable, but I'm glad you guys liked it.
Yes.
So yes, we got done eating. I think while we were eating, is that when Gary suddenly rolled in, or were we done eating at that point?
I think we were done. But
was-
maybe not.
I don't know. All I know is we were sitting there having a good time, and all of a sudden Gary Cobain gets home. And I don't even think I realized he lived there. I don't think any of us knew that he lived there. Or did he live
No.
there at that time?
No, I think he mentioned that his son lived there, I think.
So all of a sudden Gary comes in, and he walks in the living room and just like sat down in a recliner. And now he's just sitting in there, and we don't know like who he is or why he's there. And so we're still in the other room talking. And occasionally he'd say something from the other room, and it was just really awkward. And
Then
then
I think you knew who he was, though, because you mentioned something about, he broke Kurt Cobain's arm when Kurt was little. Or like you read in the book, Come As You Are or something. You knew who he was because
okay.
you had read some stuff in there.
Well, it was awkward. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere,
I think the awkwardness was from we all of a sudden felt conscious about questions we're asking and like,
all right, it felt weird.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, I can't remember if Leland said it or if it was Gary. I want to say it was Leland said, "Show him your motorcycle" or something like that out of nowhere. So before I know it, we're
he had
all.
said he didn't really like Nirvana. Or he wasn't really a big Nirvana fan prior
Gary
to that.
said that.
Yes, Gary said that. And so then he reluctantly went outside, and we all kind of marched outside to the shed. Which, when we walked out there, I was just thinking again of the story about Kurt going out to mow the lawn, and then the thing smoking because it didn't have any oil in it. Gary rolls his bike out of the shed, and we're like, "Oh, cool! Wow!"
None of us care about motorcycles.
But there was a Nirvana sticker on there, which I find odd if you don't like a band. But I guess it's his family. But
But anyway, so then at this point, we're starting to think that maybe Gary was a plant, and this is part of the normal routine that Gary comes in to like
Shoo everyone out.
and everything.
He started the bike up, remember?
Yeah.
He started it and we all
We just
looked
stood
at
there
it and
and-
went, wow, cool.
Yeah. So then we decided, okay, well, because we kind of felt like we were getting a hint of some sort. So we kind of wrapped things up and we posed for some pictures with everybody. And then, is that the day we went to the cemetery? I think we said we would, or was that the next day? I don't
I think we
remember.
went the next time we were there.
Okay, so then we felt like Gary kind of screwed us out of our full visit. For whatever reason, we felt like we didn't have enough time, and we felt like Gary ruined it for us. So we kind of like agonized about it all day long, and then the next day we decided to go back.
Yeah, but before we go into the story, and that was actually, believe it or not, 2 days after that.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. But we will play another clip here. This one's shorter. It's 1.5 minutes.
Okay.
That he drew it, because they didn't hear that story.
Didn't you see them Donald Duck? I mean, Goofy and...
Yeah, I saw them, but these two were getting food when you were telling me the story, so they didn't see it. But
Yeah, he come in the house there when he was 6 years old. And he said, look, here what I drew, Grandpa. And I looked at it and I said, you didn't draw that. I said, you traced it. Boy, he got madder heck. And he says, no, I said, I did not trace that. He says, you give me a piece of paper, he says, and I'll show you.
How old was
But
he?
he said 6.
6
Okay.
years old. And he said, I am not going to draw you Donald Duck either, because you said I traced him. And so Iris got him a couple of pieces of paper, and he sit down there at the table and went like that. But just real quick. And there, he says, and one of them was Goofy, and the other one was Donald Duck. You never seen them?
I haven't.
That's the end of that one, but that's pretty much what we just kind of said during the story. There was also another clip here. This one is not super long.
What kind of music do you like?
Huh?
What kind of music do you listen to?
I don't listen to much anymore, but I used to. But I like the big bands.
Like Glenn Miller and
Yeah, Glenn Miller is really good.
yeah.
And I like cowboy music. Hank Williams.
Oh, okay.
I got them all on tape in here, but I just don't play them anymore. I got on these here pictures. I got one printer in there that I do all my pictures on, and that's the third printer I bought. Oh, it's the fourth one I bought. The first one was so damn complicated to operate, and I went down and I bought a little one. It's in.
Not a whole lot there, but you can kind of see it. And here's another short clip.
I guess just a
Memorial service.
Yeah.
Sort of.
guys getting up there and seeing what they thought of him. I've met Chris once since then, and his mother has been here three times. She was a beauty operator in Aberdeen. She had her own shop, and there's a woman around here. I haven't seen her in months now. That knows her, and she comes down to see her, and then they both come over here.
Oh.
She was here one day, and she asked me something about Frances, and I said, I don't have her address. She says, I'll see what Chris can do. And she called Chris right there on the phone, on the cell phone, and come back, and she said, he'll get you her address. Then I seen him down in Aberdeen at a gospel mission was having some kind of doing, something was going on, and he was there, and that he called me and told me that he'd be there to come down. And when I got up to him that time, I never realized how tall he was. And his wife is beautiful, but she got that look like better than everybody else, you know. And she is really pretty. She's just damn near as tall as he is, if not taller.
Wow.
She was sure a nice looking woman. I always thought it was his sister, but it was a little. Emerson said she used to carry the condoms in her around with her, you know, and I thought it was her sister.
Forgot some of this.
Kurt's sister, but I guess he don't have a sister. I don't know. And they said, somebody said, well, he said that wasn't her sister, that was her mother, his mother that was doing that, and that's probably the reason that. See, she's married to a guy that can't speak English, and she got married here.
This clip's awesome because this is what it was like.
Right after she closed her.
Try to follow the stories.
Shop down, retired, and she takes off and comes over here, and she brought him over here once. I met him. I didn't know what he said. I don't know whether he knew what I said. But anyway, Chris went and built her a home over there and made her come over there, so she stays there pretty much, so he can watch her.
That's nice.
Yeah. So she wasn't. Was she lived in Aberdeen? Was she when Chris' mom had the beauty shop?
No, it was Chris's mother.
Yeah. Was she married at that time? When she ran the beauty shop?
No.
Okay.
It's after she retired from that.
Okay. Do you ever look at the old houses that Don and Wendy owned and feel that they could be kept up a little nicer? Because
I know they could all stand up. The one over at 1210, that could use quite a bit of work.
Yeah, because when we were looking at them, we were just kind of amazed at how run down they looked. I mean,
Don painted that house like that. He done it after work. In the summertime, it don't get dark until 9 o'clock. So he was doing it then.
I mean, that's interesting. I don't think I've heard that one for a while. I remember it.
But yeah, and those houses are, well, one of them at least is getting turned into a museum now.
So listening to that, yeah, it brings back a lot of memories of stuff we talked about. We did get into some other stuff. I don't remember if we sat in the living room for any period of time. I feel like there's a couple times where he sent us down the hall to check on a cat or something, and it's like you'd be in a bedroom by yourself thinking, is this the room that Kurt and his dad slept in when they lived here?
And you're also thinking of how weird it is that you're in a stranger's house and
he just like met you and you're like walking freely around.
Yeah,
Right.
he's trusting us to be there.
and then you sit there and wonder how many other strangers have been in there, and it was weird. I mean, very unique experience, but it was strange.
Yeah. Like you're actually in a place Kurt Cobain lived in with his grandpa, who was there at the time. Yeah, it was bizarre. We did ask about the death. Leland thought that it was a murder. He didn't really have nice things to say about Courtney Love. And it sounds like in the clip we watched, it's kind of sad listening to it again because the dollhouse he showed us, he said it was his dream to give that to Frances Bean, Kurt's daughter, but obviously he never was able to. I don't think he was ever successful in reaching her, whether she wanted to kind of cut him out of her life or whatever. But he mentions Chris Novoselic saying that he was going to get Leland in contact. Obviously, that never happened. But, I mean, I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on that. He had pictures of her up, that People Center, which makes you kind of sad, too, that he didn't have pictures that, like, he took with the two of them. Like, I don't even know if he ever met her after Kurt passed away. I don't think he did.
I don't think so either.
But as far as what happened to that dollhouse, I don't know. The record we talked about, I saw that was sold at auction. So I'm guessing when Leland died, Gary put some stuff up for auction.
With that story, I believe you might remember more than me. He said he went over to the mansion
Yeah, and that's actually on, I think, the next clip we're going to
Oh.
play. Let's roll it.
All right.
Were you amazed at how large it was?
Huh?
Were you amazed at how big it was?
Yeah, he can give me a tour. Each bedroom had a fireplace and a real fancy sink. The one I had was the one I slept in, and had the shower and that, and the sink was real fancy, like it's a pedestal or something, and the handles were sort of long and
Yeah.
real fancy.
Was that right after he bought the mansion?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it was really nice. The walls downstairs, this part here, that's all, them are about a foot, 2 foot long, I think it is, and they're about 12 inches square.
Huh.
12 inches in there. So you gotta, that one's pretty well insulated there.
I'd say.
Part of that's in the basement. Kurt took me down to the basement. Then we went upstairs, and he asked me. He said, "I wondered what this was." On the wall, they had the wall wasn't papered or anything. It was just bare wood, and the way the wood was put in there was like this here and down. And there was 2 of them side by side. And he says, "I wonder what that is." He says, and I said, I bet I know. And he says, "You do?" He said, "What?" And I said, "I bet you $1." I says, "If that went out there and then a roof and probably a little porch in front of that with French doors on it so you could look out. You could overlook Lake Washington." And he says, "By God," he said, "there's a picture of this house." He says, "Downstairs." He said, "We'll look at it." So as soon as we got downstairs, we looked at it. He said, and I said, "Yep." I said, "There they are." I says, "And that's these things here."
What things?
The squeaking you hear is Leland's hearing aids.
One's coming out of the roof up there.
Oh yeah. Yep.
It needed shingling. He says, "It's got to be shingled." He says, "I think I'll have them put them back on again." And so they must have put them on. He must have had them put on because they're there. That picture was taken just.
Wow. I'm sure he was really proud to show you the house.
Huh?
I'm sure he was really proud to have you there.
Must have been.
I got up the next morning. I had to go pick my wife up, and I got up the next morning, and they were still in bed, and I didn't want to bother them. And so I went down in the kitchen. Gee, Christ, what a kitchen! Big dining area was big, and the kitchen had a table in it. I guess they must have ate in there once in a while too. And it had a table in there. I guess more of a work table, but it was about 4 foot wide, and I'd say it was probably 10, 15 feet long.
Oh.
Big table. And then they had the refrigerator was a glass door on it. You could see in it, and it was big. And then there was a walk-in one.
Walk-in refrigerator?
Yeah.
Wow.
I guess it was a refrigerator.
Wow.
And I hunted high and low for that. See if they had, and they didn't have, I couldn't find anything to eat in the place. I thought sure they'd have, there's cereal, but I thought sure they'd have some coffee, and I couldn't find, I looked in the pantry and all over, and I couldn't find any coffee at all.
Wow.
So about the time I was getting ready to leave, well, one of the babysitters showed up. One was a girl. She showed up and started asking me questions, and I told her that I was his grandfather here. And She says, no, she said, there's no coffee here. She said, I bring my own.
Interesting.
Was that the time that he gave you the gold record?
No, I was, he was dead when I got the
that.
gold record. I guess he gave them to Kimmy to give me one. And I think she brought it down at the time that Iris died. Because she was here every day for Iris, when Iris was alive. I mean, was in the hospital. She was here every day and right up to the wedding, to the funeral. It wasn't a funeral. We could just take her, that's what they're going to do with me. Just take it, and I got a pretty red urn. What do they call them? Stuff they're made out of.
I don't even know.
Ceramic.
Oh, yeah, ceramic.
Got red in it. Red is sort of my favorite color.
Oh.
And mine's red. And when they get me cremated, then they'll have me in that jar, and all Don's sort of supposed to be the watch over, and he'll pick it up from him and take it up to you get a hold of the office for the city, and then they'll go up and dig the hole. They used to use a auger on the back of a tractor and dig the hole, and then they put the fake grass down on it. They put some chairs out there, and you can stay there as long as you want, and then take off, and
That's nice.
they come and fill the hole.
Sounds nice.
Cheapest way to go.
Takes up less space too. Less space.
Yeah, like I'll be buried over my dad.
Oh, really?
Right.
Whoa, why'd you cut that off? That was interesting.
That was the end of the clip.
Oh.
So unfortunately, that's all we recorded. But I mean, you can see we got into some details there. We talked a lot about, for whatever he brought it up there, him passing. And I think we kept building on that conversation afterwards. Yeah. So we also talked to him, but it was interesting hearing about what he said about visiting Kurt. I've seen it in other videos that are on YouTube of people visiting him, where he talks about meeting Courtney Love there, and Courtney Love like sitting there wearing like a see-through nightgown, and I thought we recorded something like that too, but I can't find it. So he said Kurt looked embarrassed of the whole meeting and stuff, but he also talked about the thing that it was labeled a suicide. He did not think it was a suicide. We talked about that. He talked about different reasons why he didn't think it was suicide. It was interesting kind of hearing how he felt about it. I don't know if you guys had any input on that.
I've forgotten so much about that trip.
Well, that last clip brought back the memories of how loud his hearing aid was. Like at first I thought that was a smoke detector in some of the earlier clips, but then I realized, yeah, that's right, his hearing aid kept. So that was another. He not only had trouble understanding like my mumbling and that, but he had his hearing aid would squeak like that constantly. So we just pretty much were there to listen and to keep asking questions so that we didn't have to leave.
Right. and I think he's happy to have company, but it sometimes like he would ramble and you started to wonder if he was bored, and
Well, we definitely didn't want him to be bored, so I think we thought if we keep asking questions, maybe we can make it interesting for him.
And I mean, he talked a lot about himself. He talked about his brothers.
We asked him a ton of questions about him.
He told us about the service. He talked about his love of cars, and it was kind of all over the board. And then we'd go back to some Nirvana related questions, and then we'd go back to him, and we kind of bounced all over the place.
He did mention that a couple of people that visited him took him to the Nirvana exhibit in Seattle, and I think he said he was upset because they made him pay admission, even though he was Kurt's grandpa, which I thought was a little ridiculous too.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, because I think it was one of the things. I think we said that we were there, and we played with the opportunity of driving him there if he wanted to see it. And he's like, I was there. And
Right.
yeah, so anyways, Gary got home. We felt, well, this is, now feels a little not as relaxing as it was before, so we'll take off. We took the picture outside. He said to us multiple times that Kelly reminded him of his sister. Said he looked like his sister, which I think made him probably feel good. And I noticed in one of the letters that he wrote after to you, Tony, he mentions that again. He said he enjoyed our visit.
Well, so
Something like that.
we bought him some red wind chimes, and I guess I forgot why we got red, but he mentioned that clip red's his favorite color. And we got really big, loud ones because of his hearing issue, and he sent back a thank you card where he mentioned that, and he talked about how loud the chimes are. So, yeah. So anyway, we did go back a couple days later, because we felt that Gary kind of threw us off the first day, and we felt like there was unfinished business, and we just wanted more. So we just showed up unannounced, knocked on the door. He was in his kitchen, like making sausages or something on a little griddle, wasn't he?
We totally took him, by surprise.
Before he knew it, we were all sitting at the table again.
Back to the good old
Yep,
times.
didn't miss a beat. And at that point, we had more time to sort of think about, should have asked him this, should have asked him that.
Started snapping some more pictures. I think he told us that Donald Cobain, Kurt's dad, had been there like the day before. So in between the 2 days we were there, which we thought was cool. And I think he mentioned he brought over some beer or something, or some soda or something that was in the fridge. Brought that over. So we thought that was pretty neat. We were trying to take pictures of everything that we forgot to take pictures of the day before, but we didn't. We wanted to look at the dollhouse again, but we didn't want to say, hey, can we go look at the dollhouse again? We end up outside, and we mentioned we wanted to see Iris's grave, so he said he normally took some lilacs there from her favorite tree or something like that, and he asked if we would do it, and we said sure. And we went outside with him, helped him cut. At some point, he had me go inside to look for a cat or something in one of the bedrooms. So again, I was in there like, I can't believe I'm in Leland's house by myself. I glanced at the dollhouse, and I was thinking too of all these other people he let into his house. Like, I could have just easily snatched something out of that dollhouse and put it in my pocket. How much stuff walked away?
Right. Yeah, and it is kind of sad too. So, I mean, I guess I look at it. Leland's a nice guy. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed visiting with him, and it's kind of sad that he was living in the conditions that he was living in.
Considering he had a very famous grandson.
Right. So, I mean, that.
Although maybe he wanted to live there.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying he didn't want to live there, but I mean, it didn't seem like he got any benefits at all from Well, I mean, I guess he had people visiting him and sending him letters and stuff, but yeah, I don't know. And like I said earlier, it kind of humanized Kurt a lot more. It was a good visit.
Yeah, he was a really nice guy.
Yeah, so in closing, when I'd say the 2 days there was probably one of the highlights of our Grunge-Cation trip. And if anything, I know after the fact, there's been people that still go to visit Gary Cobain, who's there, and he kind of does the whole...
Gary kind of took over for Leland.
So he still lives there?
Gary still lives there. Leland stuff, for the most part, from what I've seen in other people's videos, is gone.
Mm-hmm.
He sold off all of the metal cars that Leland collected. Might not be his thing.
Gary looks like he plays a lot of the same hits that Leland did. He pulls out the little Kurt Smells Like Teen Spirit doll and shows people that, and some other things. I don't think he's as good of a storyteller as Leland was, but a lot of people, I think, go there and try to make it look like they're good friends with him or have some connection. I mean, we were only there because I wrote him some letters and asked if we could visit. He said sure, and we did. Yeah, it wasn't that hard. It wasn't because he liked us more than anybody else or anything like that. We just got lucky. But
he was nice enough to still talk to the fans, which I think says a lot about him.
Yeah, agreed. I was sad to hear that he had passed away when he did. I mean, we didn't really... we kind of lost touch with him.
Yeah, we always talked about going back, and then we never did. But I mean, that's a far way to go to see somebody else's grandpa. But
yeah,
I mean, but we had a lot of fun when we were there, and it was really a great time going to Seattle and seeing all that stuff with you guys, being fans of that whole timeline. So yeah. Any final thoughts?
Not really.
Did you learn anything while you were there that you wouldn't have known prior?
I think so.
Didn't he say that he helped build the house, or he was talking about how the house that Kurt lived in when he was grade school and stuff, that he helped put something in the paneling, or he helped build something there. I remember him talking about that. There was so much I wish we would have just had the whole thing recorded.
Well, it wasn't the YouTube era back then, 80.
No.
We would have been filming the whole thing and it would have went straight to YouTube.
Is it hard for you guys to think that it's been 30 years since Kurt Cobain passed away?
That's pretty crazy.
Hard to believe.
It's kind of sad that the myth grows and grows. I was just talking to somebody about that today, like Nirvana and the darkness that sort of surrounds the band now, which isn't how I remember Nirvana being when we were fans originally. They were funny and sarcastic and kind of made a mockery out of everything and their lyrics didn't mean anything. But now, dark with a lot of meaning behind all these lyrics, these tortured lyrics, which again, to me, they're just word salad.
This one, that's really sweet. This one says, hi, 5/14/11 at 1:10 p.m. Hi, Tony and all. Thanks for letting me know when you will be here. You can choose your own day, whichever works best for you. Some of the things to see are only open on weekdays, or at least the muffler shop it's closed on Saturday and Sunday. It's best for you to pick the day. You only have 4 days, so you will want to see the stuff in, what is that? See the stuff in
Seattle.
Oh, Seattle. Take care, and I will see you in June. Kurt's grandpa, Leland Cobain. That's really sweet.
This one, he talks about how he's not a morning person. Most of the time, he gets up about 9 or 10 and goes to Aberdeen for breakfast. I get there around 9:30 or 10. I get one hot cake the size of the plate, 2 slices of bacon, 1 egg, and all the coffee I want for $6. That's a $1 tip also. I have some other people coming in June, but can't something of the date they will be here. Maybe I'll hear from them again, and then I will let you know. Kurt's grandpa, Leland Cobain.
That's really sweet.
Anything else in there, Tony, that you see?
Nothing.
Do you know what's sweet is how he, like, even in those letters, is like he's not just writing a generic letter. He's referencing what you've talked about and what he wants to show you.
So this is his thank you card for the chimes.
Now,
Hi,
I don't
Tony.
remember the chimes. Did you pick them out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Tony, and the rest of you. I'm very thankful that I had the privilege to meet with you all. I really enjoy it. Besides, it gives me something to do. And something about later, and think about later on. Your sister sure reminded me of my sister in looks. In fact, all of you are very nice looking people. I was just looking at the gift for the Mexican food, and the expiration date is 6/13/11. That's the date you were here, wasn't it? I'll take it down and ask them and see what he says. Take care, and I hope you have a great 4th of July. P.S. You folks are welcome at my house anytime. Leland.
We should have gone back.
Yep. At least we went twice.
Twice. Mm-hmm.